Welcome to LCE Insider, your weekly insight into the world of printed electronics, flexible interfaces, and smart design, powered by LCE Electronic, the world of printed electronics in one place. In today's episode of LCE Insider, we're going to talk about something that's changing the daily work of purchasing teams: ethics and sustainability. A few years ago, life seemed simpler. If a part arrived on time and at the right price, everyone was happy. Today, that's no longer enough. Buyers are expected to think not only about cost and delivery, but also about where materials come from, how they are produced, and what impact they have on people and the planet. Customers are asking tougher questions, and they don't just want a good product. They want a responsible supply chain. For purchasing teams, this creates a new kind of tension. On one side, there are hard targets, budgets, margins, lead times. On the other side, there are soft values: ethics, transparency, ESG commitments, and certifications. How do you balance all of this? How do you work with suppliers you can't visit in person? And can sustainability become more than a checkbox? Can it actually become a competitive advantage? In this episode, we'll look at those questions from the perspective of printed electronics. Let's start with the way we choose suppliers. More and more companies no longer look only at the price list. They ask, does this supplier follow ethical guidelines? Do they respect labor laws and check what their subcontractors are doing? Do they publish environmental reports and material declarations? These questions are now part of normal purchasing conversations. Studies show that around 7 out of 10 industrial companies in Europe already include ESG factors when they select suppliers. Many buyers run so-called ESG due diligence. They don't just assess financial risk, but also environmental risk and reputational risk. The idea is simple. Every decision in the supply chain says something about your company's values. At LCE Electronic, we see this every day. Customers want to look behind the curtain. They ask about the origin of substrates, certificates for inks and adhesives, and real production practices. If an on-site audit is not possible, we provide other forms of evidence: certificates, life cycle assessment reports, process descriptions, sometimes photos or videos from the production line. This helps buyers prove, inside their organizations, that their supplier choices support ESG goals and are based on facts, not just on trust. In practice, it means asking suppliers about things like their CSR policy or social responsibility standards, checking whether they follow recognized norms, and choosing partners who are open and transparent. Local partners are often easier to verify and usually carry less risk. But it's also important to look one level deeper and ask who supplies your supplier. The second big topic is measuring environmental impact. Sustainability is not only about image or marketing language. It includes very concrete numbers: carbon footprint, energy use, water consumption, and waste. For many products, the biggest share of emissions does not come from your own factory, but from the supply chain. That's especially true in printed electronics. Some materials are simply heavier for the environment than others. For example, silver inks typically have a much higher carbon footprint than carbon-based or graphene inks. Transport matters as well. Shipping materials from Asia by air can cause several times more CO2 emissions than sourcing an equivalent material locally in Europe. Because of this, we work with our customers to make the impact visible. We share data on CO2 emissions, energy consumption, and the environmental profile of key materials. We compare different printing processes, for example digital printing versus UV screen printing, and we show how those choices change the overall footprint. For buyers, the lesson is clear. In printed electronics, a large part of the environmental impact sits in the ink, the substrate, and the transport route. Asking for data, not just for declarations, helps you make better decisions. Very often, local production in Poland or elsewhere in Europe turns out to have a smaller footprint than long-distance imports. Less waste, fewer complaints and returns, and more stable quality all support both ESG goals and cost optimization. The next step is integrating sustainability into the purchasing process itself. Around the world, more companies are adding ESG questions to their RFQs and supplier evaluations. It's not just extra paperwork, It's a way to make sure that company values are reflected in everyday decisions. Research suggests that within the next years, a majority of purchasing leaders will put sustainability in their top strategic priorities. That means ESG targets are no longer only for CSR teams. They become part of KPIs for purchasing and operations as well. Turning this into reality takes time. Suppliers may need help understanding expectations. Internal teams need to adjust procedures and mindset. But companies that invest in this see real results. Some large manufacturers have already reduced the carbon footprint of their supply chain by double-digit percentages through green purchasing strategies. When we work with customers at LC Electronic, we provide ready-made environmental forms, material information sheets, and support with ESG reporting. We help them prepare for new regulations, such as CSRD in the European Union, which will affect most medium and large businesses. If a company wants to implement ISO 14001 or build a structured ESG strategy, it's smart to involve key suppliers right from the start, instead of trying to fix the supply chain later. So, what does the purchasing team gain from all this? First of all, confidence. When you know who your suppliers are, how they work, and what their environmental and social performance looks like, you reduce risk. Choosing the wrong supplier can cause delays, extra costs, or even serious damage to your company's reputation. In recent years, many companies have experienced supply chain disruptions because their partners did not meet environmental or social expectations. A more careful, ESG oriented purchasing process is a way to protect your business. Second, you gain added value and a stronger role in the organization. A buyer who thinks about sustainability is no longer seen only as a negotiator of prices. They become a partner for top management, for R&D, and for ESG teams. They help the company reach its strategic goals and can explain their decisions using clear data. That builds respect for the purchasing function and shows that it directly contributes to the long-term resilience of the business. Third, there are cost benefits. Local deliveries are usually faster and more predictable. They often avoid high transport and customs costs. If you have fewer returns and fewer quality incidents, you save both money and team time. Long-term cooperation with reliable, responsible suppliers allows better planning and more stable pricing, which is extremely valuable in a volatile market. In short, responsible buying is not the opposite of efficiency. It's one of the ways to achieve it. If you're listening to this and wondering how ESG can work in the specific world of printed electronics, there is a simple next step. You can ask for concrete tools, an environmental checklist for suppliers, example declarations, or a carbon footprint report for selected products. With the right data, you can adapt requirements to your company and your customers without taking unnecessary risk. Sustainability in purchasing is not about being perfect from day one. It's about moving in the right direction, step by step, with partners who are willing to be transparent and to improve together with you. Welcome to LCE Insider, your weekly insight into the world of printed electronics, flexible interfaces, and smart design, powered by LCE Electronic, the world of printed electronics in one place. This episode of LCE Insider was powered by LCE Electronic, where printed electronics meet precision engineering. Visit lceelectronic.com to explore materials, cases, and technologies we talked about today.